some of that rain will come as snow, by the way, as we move through Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. Not everywhere, but look north. Reason, okay, so big anticyclone over Scandinavia, cold, deep frost, deep ice and snow with it to a certain degree.
Let's take a little look at the weather, as depressing as it is. Around 100 acres face flooding in the UK after heavy downpours. Further rain expected this week. 97 flood warnings are in force in England, 2 in Scotland, 1 flood alert in Wales. Daily rainfall records have been broken too, with weather stations in Plymouth, Dorset and Devon recording their wettest January day for 104 years, 74 years and 57 years respectively. What's going on? Jim Dale is a meteorologist and founder of British Weather Services. Jim, why won't it stop raining?
Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it? It's not even St Swithun's that's to blame on this 140 days and all the rest of it. No, I'll tell you the reason why. And yes, there's more to come, and some of that rain will come as snow, by the way, as we move through Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. Not everywhere, but look north. Reason, okay, so big anticyclone over Scandinavia, cold, deep frost, deep ice and snow with it to a certain degree. And that's the blocking high that's preventing any movement from west to east in terms of the frontal systems that arrive care of Atlantic low, essentially a spinning Jessie in the Atlantic. And what it's doing is it's throwing all of these troughs and fronts towards us, one after another. And some of that has been heavyweight. So ever since the turn of the year, and maybe even a little bit before it, it's been a sort of one-way ticket. And it isn't to the moon in this case. It's to a sodden ground and floods that go with it, particularly in the west. You've mentioned South Wales, you mentioned southern Wales, but there's more East Midlands, and then you go into the Grampians, eastern Scotland. So dare I say it, Kate, but this is written on the can of climate change, as in we could expect, given the way climate change is moving, that we see wetter winters and drought-ridden summers with heat, and that's exactly what we've had in the last year or so in terms of what it's delivered.
Yeah, Tom Whipple's been writing in the Times this evening about this. Reading University, he says, is welcoming academics for a meeting of the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They've been reflecting, or they will reflect, whether the weather itself is a reflection of climate change. But the professor of meteorologist at Reading, Professor Charlton Perez, said too soon to say, strong signs that British winters were getting wetter, but when it comes to persistence, there's not good evidence either way. So overall wetter winters, but yeah, he's absolutely right. This is persistent, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just Britain, by the way. We have to look further afield in terms of what's happened in Portugal and Spain, particularly. And I think that will manifest itself in terms of France, particularly, and also the Alps. Winter Olympics, look out. Simply because you look at the charts, you look at what's forecast, and there's some huge volumes on there. So the same recipe is just kicking off. And look, it's not just in Europe. There's been other floods elsewhere in Brazil and other places. So this is kind of global, but we're getting our own share. And yes, the professor is right in terms of saying jury out in terms of climate change, but at the end of the day, this is what's written on the can. So expectations are, if you put more energy and heat into the atmosphere, into the oceans, for every degree rise of temperature, now since the Industrial Revolution 1.5, you would see around 7% more rainfall being held in the atmosphere. So, if you put together, it's
I think
now
he's
10%.
Definitely saying more rain. It's just when it sort of comes to this persistent nature, there's not so much evidence on that. And actually, some parts of the country have seen 40 consecutive days of rainfall. I mean, even if you haven't and you're in the UK and listening to this, it will feel like you have.
Yeah, it's been, I think you opened this up saying it's miserable. And as I said, St Swithun's 40 days and 40 nights isn't even in the equation. So wrong time of year. So I think, the fact we're going from drought summer, where it's affected people like farmers, for example, lost £800 million during the summer in the drought, etc. We're now getting the other side of the equation. I'm not sure that's going to play well very easily either. So, yeah, look, as far as climate change is concerned, the jury is out to a certain degree. I don't want to sit here and call that out at this moment in time.
But look,
the
obviously
chances
something is
are-
going on. Jim, we'll leave it there for time. Thank you. Jim Dale, meteorologist and founder of British Weather Services.
Well, let's talk to Steff Gaulter, meteorologist at Square Raindrop. Good evening to you, Steff.
Good evening.
I mean, just first of all, there has been an absolutely phenomenal amount of rain, hasn't there?
That's right. And if you think about last spring and last summer, it seemed that the sunshine would never end. Well, it certainly ended, didn't it? And it's not stopped raining since. So that's the sort of weather patterns we seem to be seeing more often at the moment, sort of stuck weather patterns. It's not necessarily what we were expecting with climate change. The climate models weren't really in agreement. Some were saying we'd get more sort of stuck weather patterns like we're seeing, but others were saying that actually it would be more varied. So what we're seeing seems to be that we just get all the rain all at the same time and then a lot of endless sunshine. The sunshine bit might be nice for many of us, but the rain certainly isn't.
And we've already got, still, I think tonight, almost 100 flood warnings in place, those mainly across the southwest.
That's right. I just checked, there are 97 of them in force at the moment, mostly in the southwest, as you say, yes, and still more rain to come. But if you think it's bad here, also bear a thought for what's going on over Spain and Portugal, because there they've had over their annual amount of rainfall that they've expected in a year. They've had that just in the first part of the year already. So it's incredibly wet there as well.
So what is causing so much rainfall over, well, the UK in particular and clearly parts of Europe as well?
So we've got an area of high pressure that's over Scandinavia, and that's blocking any of the weather fronts that are coming towards us. So as they head towards us, they kind of then have to die a death, really. We're the end of the train line, as it were. So there's the graveyard of fronts, as it's been called, and that's over us. So we're just seeing this endless grey, cloudy weather with endless outbreaks of rain. The jet stream's headed further south. It has to have done in order to get around that area of high pressure. So that's also directing a lot of the wet weather further south than it normally would, which is why poor old Spain and Portugal have had a bit of a clobbering as well.
So I'd hardly dare to ask the question. I mean, tell us what the forecast is suggesting. When is the rain going to stop?
I've got some good news for you, Carole. It's very brief, but on Saturday, we should have a nice day. So joking aside, it's still looking fairly miserable between now and, say, Friday. But what we're going to see are things begin to change. So this is good news because we want the weather pattern to finally begin to shift, to finally begin to move. So what we're going to see over Thursday and Friday, we'll see things turn colder from the north. And that colder air from the north is going to be clearer. There'll be clearer skies, some snow, particularly around the coasts, but mostly blue skies. And that blue skies then spread. They spread further south on Thursday, Friday, and on Saturday, most of us will have a dry, sunny day, but it will be cold. Then it doesn't last long. So for Sunday, we'll see another weather front move in. That will hit into that cold air. We'll see a lot of snow on its leading edge, and then things will turn unsettled once more. But it'll be more of a kind of regular unsettled, if you were. So our usual kind of weather for this time of year, not this endless rain. So yes, it's still going to be unsettled, but not as bad as it was.
And just very briefly, Steff, is it possible to tell whether, because we've had weeks of rain at the start of the year, we're going to have an amazing summer?
Oh, I would love to be able to tell you that that was true. But at the moment, there is no signal that says that. What we're seeing with the longer range forecast is that things become quite difficult to tell in about 3 weeks' time. So there's no clear signal whether it's going to be wetter than usual or drier than usual. But that's good news in itself, because at least there's not a clear signal that it's wetter than usual. And I'm clinging on to that as a glimmer of hope.
A glimmer of hope, a glimmer of sunshine maybe on Saturday. Steff Gaulter, meteorologist at Square Raindrop. Thank you so much.
Thank you.